What's up guys, it's djwoopig, also known as John Simmons. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel and coming back to our fourth and final series on getting started with DJing using the Hercules Impulse 300. Now, I do want to say thank you to the fine folks over at Hercules for sponsoring this video and this entire series. This controller, albeit very basic and very beginner, it's going to be a great tool in helping a lot of DJs out there get started with the craft. So this is part number 4. In the first part, we covered setting your cue points up for success and getting started with coming in on the downbeat. In episode number 2, we talked all about beat matching. Episode 3, we talked about using the EQ to transition between tracks. And today we're going to bring it all together and talk about effects. Now, I know you guys have been practicing, and the things we've discussed in the past all culminate when you can finally use effects to make quality transitions from one track to another. Now, I'm using Virtual DJ, which already comes packed with different effects and transitions you can use right out of the box. There also is the djwoopig software that comes free with your Hercules controller purchased. It also has some effects that you can use to transition from one track to another. So let's just hear what a few of those effects sound like and the ones that I'm going to be using today. Now, like I said, Virtual DJ comes loaded out of the box with some built-in effects that are pretty cool. Right now, on the left deck, I've just got a basic break start loaded, and you can kind of hear what that sounds like. Sounds pretty neat. It's going to give you that really turntable style vibe, and if you press it again, it's going to break it. Now, one thing that you can do on the effects controls is you can lengthen or shorten the time of your effect. So where we did have a really kind of long start, now it's a little bit of a short start. Starts and stops pretty fast, or we can make it extremely long. You can see up there, it just takes some time for it to get loaded. And like it takes a long time for it to get loaded, also takes a little bit for it to slow down, kind of like a train. That's one effect that we're going to be utilizing just to kind of get our mix started. It's a good thing to kind of jump off your mix, and I also like to use the break to make hard cuts between one track to another. So we're going to be using that. Also, let's go to something like a loop out. It's already pre-built for you, that way you can just start your track. If you press the loop out on here, you can hear that it loops itself and then kind of echoes out. Also, we're going to use something called the beat grid. It kind of inserts a kind of like a loop or beat on top of what you already have, adds another dynamic to otherwise just a plain old kick and snare beat. Also, we're going to talk about using loops. Now, loops allow you to simply loop over one part of a song, whether it be a 2 count, 4 count, 8 count, 16 count, it doesn't really matter. If there's a certain part of the song that fits well, you can use your in and your out on your controller to loop that particular section. And let's see what we're talking about on deck number 2. If we wanted to loop this, simply we press our in and our out. And it's going to loop that entire portion that you have selected. Now, you can make it longer or shorter. It just really depends on what you're looking for out of your mix. So, we have a loop established, and we have a couple different effects that we're going to use to kind of make a mix or a blend. Again, all this comes down with practice, training your ear muscle in what you think sounds good and decent for your mix. Of course, this is just kind of a basic. You can really get in depth with what loops and samples you use to create a mix, but today we're just going to use a few that are provided in the Virtual DJ software platform. So let's get started. And like I said, we're going to use that break start to get our mix started. So now that we have our mix started, this is a good kind of kick and snare pattern to try to loop as well. So we're gonna loop it right now, go. And as you can see, that 8 count is looped right there. Now we're gonna bring in Now that we've got a loop established, let's go ahead and add in some effects to it. Add a little filter in there. Now, as with anything, if you leave stuff on too long, it gets a little repetitive. We're going to use the loop out to get out of this mix. We're going to drop the bass on deck number 1. Now we're going to hit our loop out. Those loop outs are great ways to end a mix or to make a hard cut into another song. So let's add 2 more tracks and see what else we can do with what we have. Let's go back up here to Files, and we're going to add 2 more tracks on here. This would be a good spot to add something in like a flanger. Sometimes those effects don't always work out. You see, it sounds a little weird, but this is all stuff you're going to be practicing at home. Now let's add a loop out on this guy and see what it sounds like when we bring in a hard cut to a new song. Doesn't sound that great because I don't think those songs transition well. So let's show you another example of where we can bring a song in where maybe they don't match up, and let's try that one more time. So let's go back to the beginning of our current song. And because deck number 2 kind of has a little bit of an intro to it, let's use that to our advantage when we're using our effects and going into another song. This time, instead of using like a loop out, I'm going to do a break and then bring the new track in. shorten that break time. That way it doesn't take too much of our mix away, doesn't drive away a lot of the energy. Let's set it at a 1.5 second break. I think that'd be fine. You can see we're coming up to another phrase in the song. Here's where we're at it. Maybe if your track is going on too long, a good break start or break would give you a good timing to go into your next song. But you know, it's all personal preference in how you use these loops and effects to get from track to track. These are just examples. It all comes with practice. Let's add a different track. Let's use a different effect to get out of this one. Or let's use a loop to loop this. That way we can transition into another track. Now that we have that looped, we have the perfect spot, or we have the perfect kind of loop to get out of this track into the next one. Add a little filter in there. Now I do want to stress that this entire series has only been kind of a bird's eye view on how to get started when you're DJing with something like the Hercules Impulse 300. I do want to remind you that practice is the key if you want to get better. You're not going to get better. Your groove isn't going to be the same. You're not going to develop good mixing techniques or good ear muscle techniques if you don't practice. Practice, practice, practice. I've been doing this a little over 10 years now, and I still have to take time to practice in transitions and beat matching and just all of the above, using effects and cues and loops, all of it. It's such a wide topic on how you can get started. So practice makes better, and then maybe one day you'll be somebody like DJ AM or something. Who knows? And with that being said, this is going to conclude our series on the Hercules Impulse 300. Once again, I do want to thank the fine folks over at Hercules DJ for sending out this controller. If you want to pick one of these guys up, it will be down in the description box below. This is a super affordable and budget friendly controller for anybody looking to get started. There are different options out there, but this has just about everything that you need to get started so you can practice at home and improve your craft. Also, if you're looking to get started, stay tuned and be watching our channel. We're probably going to give this guy away to one lucky winner for our next channel giveaway. So always stay tuned to what we have here coming on the channel. The best way to do that is to subscribe and ring the notification bell. That way you know every time we post new content to the channel itself. Also, if you've got a question about DJing or anything else, send it to me at djwoopig@gmail.com. I promise you I'll get back to you. It may just take me a little bit. Also, follow me on all the social media outlets I have. They're all under DJ Woopig. You can see the behind the scenes, day-to-day life of a working DJ, maybe give you some inspiration or some help to push you along. So for Hercules DJ, I am DJ Woopig. Thank you so much for tuning in on our series on the Hercules Impulse 300. We'll see you later.